Let's get started. So if you have Office 365, so if you log into office.com, you will have Excel available as one of your packages. So if you just click on that Excel, what it does is it offers to open a new blank workbook, and you just click that open and you're ready to go. Now, Excel Online, as you see it here, you'll notice that it saves automatically. It gives it a name, and you can change this here. So I'm going to change this to, the exercise we're going to do for this week is creating a household budget. So I'm just going to change the name by typing over there. And it saves automatically, and it saves to the cloud. If you click Open in Desktop App, then what it does is it will open your file on your desktop. And then when you save that file and you close it, it should sync to your version in the cloud. And that's probably one of the best ways of working. The desktop app has more functionality than the cloud version. So what I'll be doing is I'll be working in the desktop app in the main, and I'll try and show you where there are differences in how things are done when you're working in the cloud. But this is basically how to set up a document. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into a document that I've started setting up. And one of the main uses for a spreadsheet is probably in the household for something like your household budget. So typically when you're doing a spreadsheet, you'll put a title at the top, and then you'll have different columns. For example, here's one for income, here's one for expenditure. And I've typed in some labels here. I only have two sources of income, that's salary, and then sometimes there's some extra income coming in from various sources. And then at the bottom here, I want a total. Expenditure, unfortunately, is a little bit more. So I've got mortgage to pay, utility bills, cell phone costs, car, petrol, food bill, clothing, school fees, etc., etc. The list goes on. And if you want to add to that, you simply go to the side. So in one of these rows where you see the numbers, you go right-click and you just go Insert, and you can add another household item. So I might have staff salaries to pay if I've got a gardener or something like that. Now, formatting a spreadsheet can be absolutely vital. Remember that although the spreadsheet's main function is to do calculations, so to automatically add up your income and expenditure and calculate a balance, and so that happens automatically, the formatting of the spreadsheet so that it looks nice, so that it's easier to read, is also important. So I'm going to start by showing you how to do the formatting on this sheet, and then how to set up some of the calculations. So one of the first things you'll notice, it's a little bit squashed, so that extra income is encroaching in that field over there. So if you want to make a column wider, you just take your mouse, you go between the A and the B there, until you see the line with the arrows going to both sides, and then you just drag it across. Alternatively, if you go to that line between and you go click, click, you double click, it kind of bounces into the correct size. And I can do the same here between C and D. And the whole idea here is that here are the labels, and here is going to be the figures. That's where the numbers are going to go. Now, one of the things I can do to make the formatting look a little bit nicer, I just select all of this and I go up to where it says bold, italics, underline. This is on this font tab. One of the things I've got is border styles. So if I click all borders, it creates a little grid. Now you can see little grid lines here in your worksheet, but these will not print. So if I want this to print out on a piece of paper so I can go and show my spouse my household budget, then you want to put these lines in. Now, this income is going to span two columns, one for the labels and one for the actual figures. So one of the things I can do is I can select both of those cells with my mouse, click Merge and Center, and you'll notice what it does is it merges those two cells, and it puts the heading in the center. I can do the same here, select it and go merge and center. Okay, and I could do that. The household budget, the title is going to span all of those lines, and this missing line I can just go. So I go to the numbers, hover over it in the gray, and just go right click and delete, and I can delete a row. Now, titles are usually a little bit bigger, so I could make it bold. I could go up here and give it a different font, but I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. That was 14, so I'm going to make these ones 12, and I'm also going to make it bold. If I wanted to format it a little bit more, I could, for example, shade. So I go to the paint bucket here, and I could give that a little bit of shading. And I could do the same here, make that bold, shade my labels, make it bold, and give it some shading. So the whole idea here is that what's in white is where I'm going to fill in particular figures. Now you can play with this and do your shadings. You can go multicolored, you can do all kinds of things if you want. Go wild, make it look nice, but I'm going to keep it fairly simple. Now the first thing is just to type in some numbers. So if my salary, let's say, is 20,000 a month, I just type in 20,000. No spaces, no commas, just a number. I know it's currency, but we're going to format the currency later. And you just type that number in, and you'll notice it automatically aligns to the right-hand side. Numbers typically align to the right-hand side. That's because our numeric system is Indo-Arab, and they write from the right-hand side. I could go to the center or to the left, the center, left, etc. But if you put it there, and a nice thing here is you can middle align, so align to the center. So that's quite a nice thing to do generally. I go and I put that kind of middle alignment so that it sits in the middle of the cell. Let's say I've got about 5,000 Rand extra income this month, and I want this to total. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And then we can go through and we can type in all our figures. So it's 5,500 a month. My utility bill is, generally speaking, I'm not quite sure what it's going to be this month, but usually it's about 4,000. I normally spend about 500 Rand on phones. The car payments are 900 Rand a month. Petrol is about 3,000 Rand a month. My food bill, about 3,000 Rand a month. And you'll notice I'm just typing in thumbsuck because this is kind of my usual budget. But what I can do is, as the figures actually come in, I can update them to get a more accurate budget for the month. Staff salaries, let's say that it's 4,000 Rand a month. Clothing, I normally spend about MRP say 500 Rand. The school fees, that's, let's say, 2,000 Rand a month. And I'm going to have here next to total expenditure, I'm going to add that up, and then I'm going to find a balance. But first I need to format this as currency. So if I select that whole column, all of this column is going to be currency. And if I go to this general tab over here, you'll notice one of my options is accounting number format. And I can change that to Rand English South Africa. If you don't see that there, then what you need to do is go and format as currency, and you should see it if it's set up for South Africa. You could, of course, do pounds, or if you click on more accounting formats, then you can go and choose whether you want it. If you click on currency there, you'll notice you've got different symbols for Georgian, Kazakh, Russian, etc., etc., etc. And I can do exactly the same here. This whole column is going to be currency in Rand. It says English because we have the English dictionary loaded on Excel. You can also get Rand in Afrikaans, isiZulu, etc. But we have an English dictionary loaded here. So that's all my figures. Now I need to know whether I've got enough to pay for all of that. So I want to calculate my total income. And to calculate a total, what I need to do is go up to the editing tab. So here on the right hand side at the top, on all these ribbons at the top, you'll notice I've got one called auto sum. And you've got sum, average, counting the numbers, giving the highest number, the max, the lowest number, the min, and then there are more functions. We'll be discussing functions a little bit later in a greater depth, but the one that you're going to use in almost every spreadsheet is to sum or to average. Those are the two most popular, and that's why they're here separately. So I go into the cell where I want to add up a column, and I click on sum there, and you'll notice there's a dotted line showing it's going to sum these cells. You need to be quite careful that you're selecting the cells that you want to add up. Now, I've only got salary and extra income, so I could just select the two of them and I'd get the same total. But what if something else comes in? You know, someone offers to pay rent for living in an outhouse or something, or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole column, and then if I add to it later, anything added there will update as well. And you'll notice it's saying equals. All functions and formulae begin with an equal sign. And what function is it doing? It's summing up B3, that's cell B3, colon to B11. So it's going to add up B3 to B11. That's what we want. So you don't click anywhere with your mouse. You just take your hand and you hit the enter. So my total income is 25,000. Now I can do exactly the same for the expenditure. I just click on the auto sum, and I just always redo it just to make sure I'm doing the right cells. D3 to D11 now. I go enter, and my total expenditure is 23,000. So it looks like I'm going to have a little bit left over. Phew. Now to work out the balance, I have to, instead of just, there's no formula here for balance. You know, even if I click on more functions, I'm not going to find one called balance. So what I have to do is I have to type it in. So I go equals, whoops, sorry. So I can click in here and I say equals. This is my function editor over here that I've clicked in. And you'll notice it's showing up here, equals. And then a balance would be my income minus my expenditure. Okay, so I just click on that cell over there, and you'll notice it says B12 because it's the B column and 12 row. So it's B12, and then I use the minus sign, and I click on that D12. So it's B12, my income, minus D12 equals B12 minus D12. And I just go enter, and I'll have 1,600 Rand left over. Okay, that's a very basic household budget, and you'll notice that what normally happens is about 8th of the month or whatever, my utility bill comes in, and it's a bit of a shocker because it's 4,553 Rand and 97 cents. So now I can be a lot more accurate, and from my projected, I can now put in that, and you'll notice I've got a little bit less coming in. The car this month has gone up to 968. I wasn't expecting that. And my petrol bill, as we get towards the end of the month, I actually figure that I've spent 3,400. So you will change figures and you'll get a much more accurate fix on your household budget for that month as the month goes on. In another assignment, I'll show you how to make a graph, but I think that's quite enough for now. So your task, this is for assignment number 2, is to open up a blank spreadsheet and create your own household budget. So you can thumb suck figures, etc., but your budget should have it formatted as currency. You should format it to look nice so that when you print it out, it's not an awful horror show. And it should calculate the total income, total expenditure, and have a balance. So have fun with that, and then just upload your completed assignment under assignment 2 on Teams.